Hannah Murray on TRE in the afternoon.
Good afternoon. Joining us on the line now is Hannah Cox. She's an entrepreneur who, until October 2024, had never run a marathon. She has recently completed 100 marathons in 100 days across the Indian section of the old inland customs line, a forgotten colonial route once used to control people, resources and wealth. Project Salt Run, it was called. It wasn't just a run. It was a peaceful protest, a shared platform, and an invitation for individuals and businesses to work together towards a fairer, sustainable future. Welcome to the show, Hannah.
Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, huge congratulations, first of all. I don't know how on earth you did it. How does it feel that it's all over now?
Feels a little bit like a fever dream, to be honest. I came back to the UK a week ago. I'm back at my mum's house. So I'm feeling overwhelmed, but yeah, it's funny. Life is just back to how it was before. It's very strange.
Yeah. And tell us about the inspiration behind this, because it was kind of connected to your late father.
Yeah, that's right. So my dad actually was born in Kolkata. Him and his family moved to the UK in 1953. They were British Indians, and I didn't know much about colonial history or my family history at all. And when my dad passed away in 2011, I just got really interested in learning more about it, which led me to find out about this inland customs line in India, and just think it would be a great way to try and connect myself to the country that my family's from.
Yeah. And how about your running journey? Because that kind of happened overnight.
Well, yeah, it does. Yeah, it did really. I mean, obviously, I can categorically say I am a runner now, but I think right up until leaving for India, I didn't consider myself much of a runner at all. I turned 40 in May 2024, and that's when I decided to set out on the adventure that ended up being Project Salt Run. And running was a means to achieving the challenge. So I decided to do the challenge, have been training for the challenge for 18 months, then we left. So I've not really known any different in my running journey than training for a crazy 100 marathons in 100 days. So I turned 42 in May this year. So I've done quite a lot of marathons in less than 2 years, and maybe I'll hang up my running shoes soon. But yes, it was very quick. But for anyone listening, I was not a sporty person before I started running. I just had a really good reason why I was doing it. And I'm sure there's lots of people out there who might have run a big charity challenge who feel the same.
It's incredible. So it's not like you were going out on runs and doing marathons before this challenge. You decided to do this challenge and then became a runner, which is madness.
Correct. Yeah, it is madness. I agree. I think the first thing people would say to me when I was telling them what I was going to do was, "Are you mad?" And my answer was always, "Well, of course I am. Like, I'm telling you, I'm going to do something that's never been done before." I can now say, after having completed 100 marathons in 100 days, that I am still mad. It was an experience of a lifetime, but it definitely shows that if you put your mind to something, you'll be surprised at what you're capable of, both physically and mentally, when it comes to pushing yourself. So for anyone there whose January resolutions have already gone out the window, it's spring. Now's the time to bring them back.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. So when you started training, when you started running, were you thinking at the beginning, what on earth have I got myself into? How am I going to do this? I mean, I trained for a half marathon a few years ago now, and I remember it being so tough, both the training and the half marathon itself. And people said to me, "You're going to do a marathon now?" And I was like, absolutely not. Like the difference between a half marathon and a marathon seemed huge. And so how did you feel when you first started training?
I mean, it is huge. So congratulations on that, because it is, I think, any sort of challenge where you're actively saying to people around you, your friends, your family, you're going to try and do something you've not done before and then doing it. I think everyone should be applauded for that. For me, it was, I really cut it down into like small goals in the lead up. I spoke to a couple of ultra runners and did a bit of research, and many of the runners that I spoke to who had done long distances, because obviously there's not many, so easy enough to research, had said that the first fortnight, the first 3 weeks is absolute hell on earth. But if you can get through that part, you'll be able to get through the 100 days. So even when I went out to India, I was just thinking, I just need to get past the first 2 weeks and I'll be fine. But before that, the furthest and the longest I'd run, I actually did the width of the UK in June of 2025, which was 7 marathons in 7 days. And I think once I'd completed that challenge with the team around me that were coming out to India, I felt pretty confident that we were going to be able to do it.
Yeah, incredible. It's funny because when you're running a marathon or even a half marathon, people say to you then, if you can get through the first hour or the first, however long the distance is, if you can get through that, then you'll be fine. But it's just another level, the idea of if you can get through the first 2 weeks, then you'll be fine. That's like, wow. So how were those first 2 weeks then? Were they hell on earth?
They were absolutely hell on earth. They were so awful. I was very lucky. I was out on the road with Joël Chevalier, who is a expedition lead, a project manager who runs something called Global Convoy, who is a good friend. So he was brilliant. And my friends, Natalie Smith and Alex Fowler, came out as well. And I just had a great team around me. And we'd had so many people help us fundraise enough money to get out there to do the challenge. There was that pressure from home, but I definitely couldn't have done it without, that real support system around me. I was very, very, very lucky to have the people and the crew that came out with me for the trip, because I definitely wouldn't have been able to do it without them.
Yeah. And in terms of clothing and shoes, are both incredibly, incredibly important. Shoes particularly. Yeah. Did you get through numerous pairs? Did you get loads of blisters? How did you cope with that?
Well, actually, I know we're not in the UK here, but Alex is a chiropodist, so he was looking after my feet. So I could show you a picture of my feet now. I've got no blisters. They look gorgeous. All my toenails, my feet are absolutely perfect. As far as trainers were concerned, I'm a green runner, which means it's really important not to use more kit than you need. So I took 3 brand new pairs of trainers out with me. And according to the manufacturer, with a brand called Hilo Active, they would last about 500 kilometers each. I pushed them to about 1,000 kilometers each pair of trainers. I basically rotated my trainers. I wore 2 different pairs every day. And once we got to 1,000 kilometers, the soles started to go, and there was no way for us to get any more trainers out to India. And I didn't want to change the brand I was using because I knew they were working for my feet. So we ended up actually going to a tyre repair shop on the side of the road and bartering and getting some inner tubes from tyres given to us in exchange for some selfies. And then we stuck them with super glue to the bottom of my trainers. And that's how I got through the last 1,200 kilometres.
Oh, my goodness. That's amazing. I mean, you couldn't make this up, could you? If you were listening to someone else telling you this story, you'd be like, oh, my God. Brilliant.
It made sense at the time. I was driving on all these lorries and cars, and I was like, if tyres are good enough for them, they'll be good enough for me.
Yeah. And what about the surroundings? So I was lucky enough to go to India last year to do a different type of challenge in a tuk-tuk. So I understood the weather and also the roads and the traffic, and what a kind of nightmare that was. So how did you handle all of that?
I think you'll know this then, Hannah, that India is chaos, but the people of India are the most generous, kind, curious people you will ever meet. Doesn't matter where you are in the country. I was lucky enough to go through, I've been to 13, more than that, but maybe about 15 of the 29 states in India now. So I can categorically say that across the board, Indian people are amazing. But you're right, it is chaos. I think the thing you need to learn about Indian roads is, as long as you acknowledge there are no rules and you accept there are no rules and you're hyper vigilant, you'll be absolutely fine getting along them. I've luckily been able to travel quite a bit, and as long as you understand that to be safe, you've got to look out for number one and all that kind of stuff. It's I think the roads were absolutely fine. I actually, touch wood, I was so lucky. I didn't see one one car accident the whole time I was in India. So even though it's chaotic, it seems to work for the country.
It's organised chaos somehow, isn't it?
It's very much organised, very much organised chaos. And we travelled through so many different areas. I mean, that was one of the beautiful things about the run. The scenery was constantly changing. We were running past cotton fields, sugarcane fields. We were running through jungle, tiger reserves. It was the most epic, scenery every single day. And that was something that just made it wonderful to get up for as well, just to see what new things we might experience every day on the road.
Yeah. And presumably the temperatures were generally a lot hotter than the running that you'd done in the UK. And that must make it harder.
Yes, definitely. So, I mean, I think when I got back to the UK on Monday and my mum said it hadn't stopped raining since the beginning of the year. So I experienced zero rain when I was in India. We decided the November to March period to be out there because that's when it's coolest in the country. So the hottest it actually got when we were in India running was about 32 degrees. And that was really hard to run in, especially with no shade. I was lucky enough to go to Kochi in the east, on the southern coast of India after the run. That was 35 degrees, 85% humidity, and absolute agony to be in. So I definitely wouldn't have been able to run in that. But I was relatively lucky. I was quite comfortable running in about kind of 27, 28 degrees daily. It just involved lots of suntan cream, lots of water, lots of food, and trying to run in the shade whenever I could.
And how did you enjoy the food? Again, that was something that I was warned about when going there. Be careful, don't drink the tap water and don't have any ice in drinks and things like that. And everyone's always kind of a bit nervous of the Delhi belly. And for you doing what you were doing, it would have been awful. If you were ill, it would have halted the whole project.
Well, it was awful. I did get very sick. I had...
Oh, no.
I had about 3 weeks in, I had 3 days of sickness. We don't know where it came from. I think it was overtiredness. And then on day 49, I got really ill, vomiting bug, gastroenteritis. And I ended up after about a week of being sick on the side of the road with this bug while running marathons. I ended up going to a medical centre and being put on antibiotics. The difficult thing about it, as I'm sure you had this on your tuk-tuk experiences, we did cook a lot of our food on the van, but the food options were limited on the trip. So often it was what's available, be as safe as possible. I ate vegetarian the time I was out there, only drank bottled water. But on the day that I got really sick, Alex was also really sick, but we couldn't identify where it had come from because everybody else had eaten the same food, drunk the same drink. So it's just one of those things that is unfortunately going to happen when you're in a different country with, different foods. We did manage to battle through, but it's definitely not something I would recommend running when you feel like rubbish. I would not have done it I 100% would not have done it if it had just been me running in the UK or doing training for anything else.
No, absolutely. My goodness. And tell us about the journey that you did. There's a significance of a hedge.
Yes. So it's called the Great Hedge of India. Yeah, I'll be really surprised if anyone who's listening to the show will have heard of it because it's not very well known. It only existed for about 30 odd years. But in the 19th century, the East India Company, which at the time ruled the country, enforced 2 taxes in India, the salt tax and the land tax. And for the way for them to collect this salt tax, they created this customs line, essentially, that runs through what is now Pakistan and India. And rather than build a wall, which kind of you would have thought would have made the most sense, they actually built a huge hedge as part of this customs line. So the customs line in total was over 4,000 kilometres long. And a huge part of that was a huge living hedge, which was maintained and grown by about 12 to 14,000 army officers. So It was this huge thing that ran through the country. It's devastating that the salt tax, especially at that time in India, led to a huge famine. 6 to 8 million Indians died. It ended up that salt tax, they then decided to collect it in a different way, and the inland customs line was abandoned. But just the fact that it existed, the fact it was so devastating, the fact that the East India Company really took so many resources out of that country without considering the effect on the people and the environment. I just think it was a story that was worth reminding people of and telling. And also to see if there was anything remaining 150 years later that would tell us that this inland customs line existed, because there were only a few maps in existence showing that it even existed at all.
Wow. Must have been amazing to see see all that history then.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, a lot of the run was unfortunately running along national highways and roads that exist now. But we were very lucky in the first couple of weeks to actually find some of the kind of cobblestone engineered road by the East India Company in a place called Powwow, which was almost the equivalent, I imagine, finding the tomb of Tutankhamun was for those guys. Like, it was such an amazing, incredible thing for Joelle and I especially, who had created and marked out the route, to actually find evidence of this inland customs line 150 years later, and ultimately kind of just being ignored by everyone that was walking along it and using it in the modern day, because no one knew what they were walking along. And that was really, really cool to see and experience.
Oh, fantastic. And did you get to go back to where your dad was born and grow up and sort of connect to his memory a bit?
I did, yes, Hannah. So he was born in Kolkata on a place called Kamak Street, which, if anyone listening has been to Kolkata, it's just off Park Street, which is like their main road in the city, right near the Victoria Memorial. So it's very central, but he lived in like a tiny first floor flat just kind of down a side street. So I went to that. It was a real, I don't have many items or any belongings of my dad, so it really felt like coming home. That was a really special moment for me. No one else, it was quite funny because obviously people who lived there were like, why are these 5 random foreigners coming down this alleyway, and why is she crying outside my mate's flat, probably. but yeah, it was a bit of a full circle moment. I'd actually been to India 8 years ago with a view to go and discover the inland customs line then, and I wasn't able to do it, and I had to go back to the UK. So it was a real full circle moment being able to go back again outside my dad's childhood home and actually have finished the trip, finished the ability to do that then, yeah.
Oh, very special. And you were also raising lots of money for charity. Tell us about that. What charities did you choose and why?
Yeah, so we had an audacious goal for charities, which we still have. And I wanted to do it for people and the planet. And we chose 4 charities that sit under that umbrella because the least amount of charitable giving worldwide goes to the environment. It mostly goes to healthcare charities and things like that. So we wanted to really highlight that if we weren't here and the planet didn't exist, you know, that's the resource that looks after all of us. So we were raising it for a non-profit called 1% for the Planet, which is a non-profit that promotes any business in the world to give 1% of their revenue to charity and high-impact non-profits so that they're giving back to the earth. Mm-hmm. And then we chose 3 1% for the Planet charities to highlight in that mission as well. So Frank Water, which is an incredible charity that does lots of water conservation and education support in India and all around the world. Big Change, which is about reimagining education and how can we teach our young people to help look after the planet. And Client Earth, which I think is the most random and coolest charity ever because they are a law firm that represents the planet. So they actually take governments and businesses to court in the legal system if they don't think they're looking after the planet. They took the UK government to court a few years ago and won. So I just think it was just a really cool way of using the law to try and look after our planet. So those are the ones that we fundraised for. And we raised over £90,000 for them, which is about 10 million rupees.
Oh, amazing. Absolutely fantastic. Well done. So what is next for you after doing a challenge like that, being back home and being back with your mum and being in the UK? That it must be a bit of a sort of come down, a bit of a shock after all that. Are you desperate to do something else, or were you really enjoying normality?
Well, I feel like I haven't kind of sat down yet. One of my best friends had a baby when I was away. Another one bought a house. It's all been going on since I've been away. For me, I run something called the Better Business Network. So it's back to work, really continuing that mission about having a job that really helps businesses do better. And then also I have another 2 races coming up, which I'm going to be talking about at the end of I can't talk about till the end of the month. And then we also have the Pakistan part of the Inland Customs Line still to run, which is another world first that's never been done. And I'm really keen to go to Pakistan and do that, hopefully this year or next.
Oh, amazing. So you haven't stopped running then. You obviously enjoyed it maybe more than you thought you would.
I definitely enjoyed it more than I thought I would. But, for anyone listening, I'm not a fast runner. I would say I'm a jogger. Those marathons every day were taking me between 6 to 8 hours to complete every day, with stops where I sat down and ate and stuff. So I'm no Paula Radcliffe, but I'm just determined.
Oh, fantastic. Well done, you. I hope you're very proud of yourself.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Hannah. I am. I keep getting told by my mum, so I'm
lovely.
excited.
Great stuff. Well, Hannah Cox, thanks so much for joining us. If people want to find out more about what you've done and the charities, and obviously still pledge money to these great charities, just tell people the website.
Yeah, it's Project Salt Run, like salt and pepper, Salt Run, and the website's got everything on. We've also got an Instagram page, or you can follow me at betternotstop_ on Instagram as well.
Perfect. Project Salt Run for more information. Hannah Cox, thank you so much for joining us, and well done. I hope to chat with you again in the future.
Thanks, Hannah. Bye.
Take care. Bye.